Hello there, welcome to Wednesday. Yeah, we're live, friends, here on Global Irish Radio this Wednesday, August the 5th, 2026. It's the Daily Crack Show with me, Sean G, here on Global Irish Radio and dailycrack.com. It's a big happy birthday right off the mark to Pauline Scholar, celebrating out there in Chicago. Big happy birthday to you, Pauline. We hope you have a great day. Yeah, brand new day. We're halfway through the week, friends. This week is a little bit different to last week. It's dragging a little bit, but there you go. A new day, a new deal with Iran. Yeah, they really want a deal, those Iranians. The Donald says they're close to a deal to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. And since we were last with you, it was only Monday, but he's ended the war twice and restarted it again. Goodness gracious me, it's those algorithms. I gotta stay off Facebook. They're doing it to me again. They just get you frustrated and worked up. We can't be having that kind of stuff. And I seen it somewhere. If you stay off social media, you only have to worry about yourself, your family, and what's for dinner. You go online and suddenly you got the cares of the world to deal with. You're stressing out about Donald Trump, Iran, global warming, politics, the second coming, and the apocalypse. It's a very stressful place, the online world. So best to avoid it sometimes. But yeah, those algorithms, the stuff they send your way, they are addictive, all of that stuff, but they can kind of get you worked up. Have you noticed your blood pressure? And it's best not to engage. And I don't know, reset your settings, because I don't know what I picked, but I guess a lot of the stuff I get just gets me really worked up. Welcome, friends. Whew. Welcome. We're live here at Global Irish Radio. And the weather. Let's talk about the weather. That is less stressful. Not awfully pleasant. It's not our happy place today, I'm afraid to tell you, friends. Not at least, not in the west of Ireland anyway. It's actually wet and kind of windy. It's kind of a wintry old day. And there's a strong breeze blowing, which is nice in itself, but there are heavy showers as well. So watch out for that. You'll need to bring the old top coat with you if you're heading out tonight. Or at least the brolly. Keep that in mind if you are heading out. I think we can cancel that hose pipe ban that they put in place, which officially is in place until about the 26th of August for much of the country. All of the country, in fact, I think, but we won't be needing it. We won't be needing it here in Mayo. Cancel that one. All right, lots to talk about on the programme today. There is lots happening, and we look at the papers today. At first glance, all of the papers, much of the papers, a lot of them covering the funeral of Glenn Hansard, which took place in Dublin yesterday. A celebration of life. There was sadness. We've got it all. We'll talk a little bit about the final farewell to the legendary Glenn Hansard a little bit later in the programme. It's the story, as I say, that's dominating much of the front pages and the inside pages. Lots of happy pictures, but lots of sad pictures, as you would expect on an occasion like that. studio@gir.ie, as always. That's the email address if you want to get in touch with us here at the programme. Always good to hear from you. Reach out, say hello, say hi. Let us know what we can do for you. We are the Daily Crack Show, bringing you up to speed, keeping you in touch with Mother Ireland, all that you need to know. Your minimum, at the very least, the minimum dose of Irishness that you need to get through your day. dailycrack.com. Check it out online. There's a lot. Have a nose around if you are there. Come on in for the cup on tea. There's a lot to check out, and we link you to all of the big stories here in this country, the trending stories. I was looking at what's trending here in Ireland today. Two of the top trending stories, the funeral of Glenn Hansard, as I referenced there, in terms of what's on our papers today. It's also the top trending story on X, and the other one is the Donald and his threat to come visit Ireland, which unfortunately he is following through. He will be coming in September, and speculation that he will present the prize to the winning golfer. They're afraid he might keep it, or he might want to keep it for himself. So they might need to have a second prize on hand. But yeah, lots to talk on X, about the Donald's visit to Ireland. Not much, by the way, in the papers today about any of that. But come the weekend, we will be, we'll be overwhelmed with it again. So, as I say, a lot of coverage and a lot of talk about it, just not in our papers today. But it is certainly, as you can see there, trending on social media and X. Okay. The weather, as I said today, not very nice, but I can tell you, as they crunch their numbers for July, they're telling us that it was the third warmest July in history, or at least since they started taking records. New statistics show that last month was one of the hottest, driest and sunniest months on record for Ireland. Yeah, I could buy that. Yeah, it was pretty hot. According to Met Éireann climate statement, or Met Éireann's climate statement for last month, July 2026 was the second hottest July on record since 1900. And it was also the third hottest month on record overall. So second warmest July, but third hottest month overall since records began. So there you go. It was a hot one. The forecaster also said that the month was dominated by high pressure. When do you see that here in Ireland? Not very often, but yeah, July was dominated by high pressure, which resulted in a national mean July temperature 17.25 degrees, which is not too shabby at all. And this has only ever been topped by a mean temperature for July back in fairly recently, actually. 2013, 17.34 degrees Celsius was the mean temperature in July of 2013. So there you go, two of the hottest Julys ever and in recent times, thanks to global warming. 2013 and 2026. So there you go. And of course they go into all these other statistics which we will not bore you with. You got the crux of it. It was a hot and warm July and sticky July. We have the sunburn farmer's tan to tell us what we already know. But there you go. Nice to get it from our weather service here in Ireland. The moon, we have some moon news. As we often do, we like to share news of what's going on in the moon. It's the book moon at the moment, which we told you about last week in the program, on the program last Friday, I think. And, that comes in at the end of July, early August, and that's what you're looking at these days. But, that loud explosion that you heard on the moon earlier on today, around about 7:35 a.m. Irish time, I think. What was that, you're asking? Did you even hear it? Probably not. But there you go. Somebody heard it. If there's anybody living on the man on the moon heard it. Essentially, it was some space garbage, courtesy of our friend Elon Musk, a rocket that crashed into the moon. No small rocket at that. They say it's about the size of a bus. We were driving into Mass this morning, myself and Margaret, and Ireland's preeminent space commentator. Yes, we have a space commentator here in this country, Leo Enright. He used to work for RTE for years. He would cover all the rocket launches, all of that nice stuff over the years. He's still around and he's still very much engaged with what's happening in space, and he was giving us a nice explanation as to what was going down on the moon this morning. A rocket that came from Elon Musk's SpaceX, or whatever that crowd is. They send all these satellites to space. They had to dump a rocket, and normally it would just get absorbed into the atmosphere and just burn up. But for some reason, this was a little bit heavier, made it through the atmosphere, made it into the... Well, there is no atmosphere around the moon, but anyways, forces of nature and the solar system dragged it towards the moon. That wasn't the plan originally. They thought it would go elsewhere and just disappear or burn up on its way to the sun, but it ended up on a crash course for the moon. And the moon, as you know, is full of craters, but now it's got one more crater, courtesy again of Elon Musk. But anyway, about the size of a bus and about 3 ton of explosives. So it's like a big bomb hitting the surface of the moon. You think about the bombs that the Americans drop on Iran and places like that. They are 2,000-pound bombs. So it's probably about 10 of those combined hitting the moon at a speed of about 8,000 kilometers an hour, according to our friend Leo Enright. No consequences to Earth or anything else. If there were people now living on the moon, they might be a bit peeved off, but since there are not, it's not a big problem right now. But since the Chinese and the Russians and the Americans have plans to put people on the moon, Elon Musk and his friends will need to be a little bit more cautious in the years ahead. But that's what that stuff on the moon, that all of that funny business on the moon was. It was Elon Musk and that rocket that crashed into it earlier on this morning when you were having your cornflakes. Studio at GIR.ie, dailycrack.com. You know, we talk about often how to get your day off to a winning start, and in this country it's the old shower. And I was looking at another survey yesterday, and some people haven't had baths. They haven't, the traditional bath, they haven't had it for 10 years. Because showers have overtaken the bath in terms of popularity and getting your day off to a winning start. We use the shower these days. And the other thing that's overtaken, well, the cup on tea has been overtaken by the coffee. But we want you to also incorporate into your morning routine thedailycrack.com. Check out the website. It links you to all of the front pages. You get to see the headlines on the daily papers here in Ireland, and go behind the headlines with the links to the newspaper sites and all of that nice stuff. So there you go. That's how you get your day off to a winning start. Dailycrack.com. Check it out if you get the chance. I was out for a lovely walk last night with Remy, and Remy is sporting a lovely little Mayo, what would you call it, ribbon? It's not a ribbon, but it's a sports paraphernalia bearing the Mayo colours, and she's still wearing that, and the neighbour remarked that she must be a Mayo supporter, and indeed she is. Isn't everybody a Mayo supporter these days? And we were having the chat about Mayo and how great it was, and we were talking about the effect, not just in terms of the morale of the county and how it's lifted everybody up and everybody in a good mood, and a week last week being a week that the likes of which we'll never see again. But we were talking about other kind of consequences of the win in terms of, and we were wondering, it's impossible, I suspect, to measure the economic impact of Mayo's success in Croke Park last week. But you look at it, and so many, ripple effects from that win in terms of, the economics of the whole thing. First of all, let me tell you what the latest craze is here in County Mayo. Tattoos. People are gone mad getting tattoos. People that had never dreamed of getting tattoos before. I've seen one guy, 59 years old, and him sporting a tattoo, his first tattoo ever. And what was the tattoo? You guessed it. Yeah, Mayo tattoos, marking the year that Mayo won the Sam Maguire. It's a good way to, I suppose, commemorate the event, isn't it? Another way would be to plant a tree, the Mayo tree, courtesy of treedeeds.com, if you want to do something good for the planet as well. But there you go. If you want to get a tattoo, it's a bonanza for all the tattoo shops in Castlebar. And surprisingly enough, there's quite a few tattoo shops in there, but they're flat out at the moment doing the Mayo tattoos. Everybody wants it. So that's a little bit of economic activity generated as a result of Mayo's win. I see Midwest Radio. They are, they did amazing coverage of the whole week. The run up to the All Ireland final, and then the aftermath, the homecoming, and they were there with their social media, the reels they call them. And this is wonderful for people, particularly people who couldn't make it home for the final, because they do a great job of capturing them. You have front seats to the action here in Mayo, and people as far away as Australia. So all of these reels being viewed many times. In the case of Midwest Radio, their social media views is almost reached 70 million views, and they were putting a lot of stuff out there, stuff like the final minute of the commentary from their commentator there, Martin Carney and Stephen Grealish at Croke Park, to meeting the player, all the different moments, and you've seen them yourself. They're circulating and they're getting clicks and shares and views, and that's the world we live in. All of these things combined are equal ka-ching, euros, money, dollars, that kind of stuff, and that is great for a little Midwest Radio, a local radio station here, which is always quite popular, but it's been challenging in terms of the business side of operating a radio station these days, because, as you know, everything's moved online, and traditional advertising on radio is down, way down. So that was a huge boost in the arm for Midwest Radio, because now they've added thousands of followers to their audience. Many of them not even in the county. They have about 200,000 followers. I was watching it climbing all week long, and I wasn't at all astonished at the fact that they have over 70 million views for the material that they were putting out there. So that's a huge shot in the arm, because now when people go to advertise something, the other thing was, lots of people were putting in ads to wish the team well. And so that was, much, I suppose, badly needed revenue for a station, that's probably, finding it challenging to operate and compete with Facebook and social media. But now, when you have followers, when you have an audience, anytime you have followers, you have somebody to sell to, and it's valuable. So they built up a huge followership, over 200,000 followers on their Facebook page. So now when people come to take out an ad on the radio, suddenly they have I'm sure they'll be doing it already, but it makes the whole prospect far more attractive, because they have a digital strategy they can incorporate with their advertising packages. So they can say, in addition to you getting the largest independent radio listenership in the Ireland, because they're the most popular station in Ireland, in addition to getting your ad aired on traditional terrestrial radio on the most popular radio station in Ireland, local radio station, you're also, we can show you, we have the numbers here, you're getting it out to 200,000 people. That's very, very attractive from an advertiser's perspective. So that's a huge shot in the arm for Midwest Radio, and all because a lot of that has come about because I'm sure they had an effective digital strategy already, but the Mayo thing just blew it off the chart, blew everybody out of the water, and people have been capitalizing on it. And you see the podcasters as well doing all these podcasts around sport and stuff like that, getting new followers, that kind of stuff. And it's a wonderful thing. And you look at the newspapers. When is the last time that the newspapers have had to had a rerun or a reprint of their weekly editions? That happened twice for the Mayo News this past week. Probably the other papers as well. And they've been doing, in fairness to them, they got great social media strategies as well. They're putting the reels out there. They're getting the follows because, again, it's coming back to the digital marketing strategy online that ties in with their more traditional forms of advertising, the newspaper ads. So, these days you need more than just to be able to sell in the newspaper. You need to be able to attract the online audience. And again, the Mayo, what happened in Mayo was seismic last week, and it just pulled in all these people, and a lot of people, the newspapers included, capitalizing on that. So a much needed boost for the newspapers as well. And of course, if you look at the papers, and lots of people have looked at the papers these past few weeks that haven't looked at a paper in God knows how long, and many of them wanted to pick up the editions with the souvenir, the souvenir editions of the papers and the pictures and the posters that were included with some of those newspapers. And you'll see there's a lot of ads in there from small businesses wishing the team well as well. So, a huge economic activity around this Mayo win that you don't often think about. And I met Pat over the road, and he was giving me the full lowdown. He's very involved in the GAA and all the rest of it, and he was telling me that one small little GAA club, I think up near Kilmena in somewhere near Westport, or I think it was a GAA club, or if not, it was some coffee shop someplace, and he said 2,100 cups of tea, he said, they sold. Could you believe that? 2,100 cups of tea. He said that's huge for a little GAA club or coffee shop in the GAA club. And then, being Ireland, Irish people don't have a cup on tea, the cup of tea just by itself. They have to have a bun, or they have to have something with it. So you add that all in, and then, suddenly, that small little coffee shop is having a $10,000 day or more even. Based on 2,000 cups of tea and the bun and the biscuits and all that go with it. So again, a huge economic shot in the arm for those small little coffee shops, those small little GA clubs. A lot of the, some of the players had ties to these little, these clubs, and they weren't on the official homecoming schedule or itinerary, but they'd stop off, and the worst kept secret in the area that they'd be stopping off. The same happened in Knock. They made impromptu stops, places along the way, and these proved to be bonanzas for the businesses along the way. So, and then not to mention all of the people that were out selling the merchandise, the flags and the little thing that I had round Remy's neck, because she is a Sam Maguire supporter. And everybody, I was telling you, decking out their, not only their houses, their cars and their outhouses and the silage bales. Can you imagine all the red and green paint that was sold? Even the hardware stores doing well off this win. But the people selling the merchandise and putting all this, dressing up their pets, people went absolutely nuts. So it would be interesting. I think it would be very fascinating to measure the economic impact of Mayo's win, and it's going to go on. There's going to be books written about this. There's going to be magazines. There's going to be they'll be selling newspapers and podcasts and advertising around this for a long time to come. So immeasurable, really. And all the people that have bought into the area that came home to see the game, and then people driving up and down from Belmullet and different places, the gas stations doing well. Everywhere you went last week in Mayo, it was bustling with activity. It was thriving, and the pubs and the restaurants. And I look at the ads in the online, and all of the pubs are advertising this week for help and stuff like that. And that's a wonderful thing to see. And I think in part it's because, well, maybe one or two quit after having to work like around the clock for several days last week. But I think it's more to do with the fact that many people probably rediscovered the pub, because the way things were, many people weren't going to pubs, and pubs are in demise. We know that, and it's only last week we were telling you that young people are more likely to go to to a running club or a gym than they are to a nightclub or a pub, and that's the world we live in, and that's all good and well. But lots of older people and settled people, they become accustomed to because habits form very, very quickly, and after COVID, a lot of the pubs never really recovered from that period, that downtime, and people started drinking at home, and these habits were formed, and they kind kind of shunned the pub, and I would suspect, I'm not a betting man, but if I was, I would bet on it that a lot of people, the first time back in the pub probably for quite some time, and a whole plethora of people rediscovering the magic of the Irish pub and the camaraderie and all that, the good times that happens in the pub. So the pubs are bustling with activity, and the restaurants and all of that sector. So it's been, as I say, a huge bonanza. Aside of the win that we think about the sporting side of it and the success from that perspective, and the feel-good factor of all of that, but so much more to it. It's an amazing story, and I just can't wait for the movie. It's got all the ingredients of a brilliant movie as well, a blockbuster, and most importantly, from a Mayo perspective, a happy ending. So we'll be waiting for the movie. Friends, we're live from Castlebar, outside Castlebar, County Mayo, home of the 2026 All-Ireland Football Champions. And again, congratulations to our neighbours in Galway, the girls there winning the ladies GA Football Championship on Sunday, and they were welcomed home to a rapturous welcome in Tuam. So that was nice to see as well. The ladies getting a warm welcome home, having not won it for 22 years. A little bit of sports news with regards to Mayo and to Kobe, because everybody is following the players, and most of them are having a rest from the homecoming last week. They need it, Lord knows. But I see Kobe and his brother Jordan, they went out to Spain for a little sun holiday, and they were sharing pictures again on social media. People getting pictures everywhere they go. People want to get their pictures taken with them, and you have to salute the players. They must be sick and tired of it, but they all stop and they say hello, and they they facilitate the people getting the photos taken, and they understand how much it means to them. But Kobe, he's over in Spain, but the latest update is he was spotted boarding a flight to Australia to begin the next chapter of his sporting career with the AFL side St Kilda. That's right. Lots of people thought, well, will he or won't he? And all this hype around his GA win, will it deter him? Will he change his mind? Well, not for now, at least. And as I say, he was spotted. He's on the plane to Australia. He's heading out there to St Kilda. And there you go. At least he goes with an All-Ireland medal in his back pocket and a lot of memories that will last a lifetime. And he's going to be a hero every time he returns to Mayo. But there you go. Maybe he'll get homesick, and maybe he'll come back, and maybe we'll see him in the championship next year. But that's the latest on Kobe. He's Australia bound, and he's probably there by now. Who knows? That is from today's paper. So there you go. That's the latest on Mayo. And the celebrations continue here in the county, and the Sam Maguire will be making his way around to all of the schools in the county at some point. studio@gir.ie. I forgot to mention when I was on last Wednesday to stay tuned for Oliver Lee from down under in Auckland, New Zealand. So I must do it now before I forget. So right after this broadcast at 3 o'clock today, stay tuned for Oliver Lee from Auckland, New Zealand. Oliver is a Galway man, and listen for his perspective on all things happening here in Ireland and the stuff that's going on there in New Zealand as well. So another nice little programme that fits nicely with the Global Irish Radio schedule. So stick around for that. The other big news that Leo Enright, our preeminent space commentator, had to share with us was the fact that there is a big event happening on August the 12th. That's when it's happening. No, it's not Margaret's birthday. It's not as big as Margaret's birthday, but it's not far behind it. It's on the same date, so you'll remember that, and you'll be reminded to go outside and check the sky, because there's going to be a solar eclipse. And Leo Enright was telling us the best place to catch these eclipses. It's challenging to catch an eclipse in Ireland, because usually it can be cloudy or foggy or misty or raining, and it's hard to see it. But if the weather is right, there are certain places that you might want to be, and Leo Enright tells us the best place to be if you want to catch that a glimpse of that, what's happening in the sky with the sun, with the eclipse. The Dingle Peninsula is the place to be. It's the best place in Ireland to witness next month's spectacular. It's a partial solar eclipse, and stargazers will be promised, or they can enjoy a dramatic sunset display, we're told. And the money shot for professional photographers will be to capture a shot of the eclipse behind Skellig Michael. You know Skellig Michael off the coast of Kerry? If you get a picture of the eclipse behind that one, you can take it all the way to the bank. Yes, as I said, that is the money shop, or the money shot. So be on hand with your camera for that. Ireland will experience its first solar eclipse since 1999. Wow, that's been a while, hasn't it? I didn't realise it was that long. And as I say, it'll be on August the 12th when the moon will pass between the Earth and the Sun, blocking most, but not all of the sun's light. And again, Leo Enright, who is a mine of information, shared lots of tips on how to catch a glimpse of that, and explaining all about it as well. And of course, as you know, we love Moon Talk. And how fitting that it's on Margaret's birthday, because how many times do we drag her out at night to check out a new moon or some other solar activity? And so now we will know that on the 12th of August, we will know to take her outside and check that out. Although we won't probably see it from Mayo, unless we go down to the Dingle Peninsula or anywhere where there's big mountains, which there are in Mayo. The reek might be blocking it, but anywhere there's big mountains or high, tall buildings, your view is going to be obstructed. That's why Leo Enright is sending you down there to the Dingle Peninsula to get the best view of it all. Even then, it's contingent upon the weather, so disclaimer, we can't guarantee if you go all the way to Dingle and book one of those expensive hotels in Killarney or Dingle or the Ring of Kerry that you'll get to see it. And David was telling us that in Kerry, if they know how to collect money down there, they have two church collections on Sunday, one before communion and one after communion. And then on the way into the local towns, they're out with the buckets to fleece the tourists. No, not to fleece the tourists, to welcome the tourists to that very hospitable part of Ireland, that very scenic part of Ireland, Kerry. But watch out for the lads with the buckets on the way into town. They are professional fundraisers. They could teach the rest of us a thing or two. Let's put it that way. But anyway, there you go. Lovely part of the world, Kerry. And if you're down there for the eclipse on the 12th of August, Dingle Peninsula near Skellig Michael and that part of the county is the place to be. GlobalIrishRadio.com, streaming live on as many as 25 digital platforms, bringing you programs from Ireland and all around the world. This is the Daily Crack Show with me, Sean G, and if you miss it live, well, you can catch it anytime at thedailycrack.com. Links to all previous editions of the program. Some exciting news, friends, with regards to the Irish Ranter podcast. Been talking to him, and we'll be sitting down to record the latest episode either today or tomorrow, or very soon anyway. We were going to do it on Monday night, but events, the world conspired against us, didn't get round to doing it. But the exciting news that I have to share with you is not only will you get to hear the Ranter going forward, you'll get to see him too. He wants to be on YouTube. He sees, and again, this may be arising from the whole Mayo thing, you know, the surge in popularity of podcasts. Everybody's doing them, but there were so many podcasts built around GAA and sport and Mayo. And he says, well, why aren't we on YouTube? And I says, well, have you looked at us lately? And he says, we have to be on YouTube. So we're going to be on YouTube and, you know, all of the other, wherever you get your podcasts that you can view them. Personally, I like the audio experience better, but he's the boss, so we'll be getting it on there very, very soon indeed. And some great podcasts at irishpodcasts.com. Links you, and the Daily Crack links you to the top 10 countdown of podcasts here in Ireland. You can see what we were talking about here in this lovely country of ours. And as I say, sport and politics usually rank fairly high. Those are topics of interest to a lot of Irish people, and they usually rank high in the top 10 countdown. I must say, one of the most funniest podcasts I've listened to is, in a long, long time, was a podcast from Waddle and Sylvie from Chicago and ESPN. They do a sports podcast there. Not a huge sports fan myself, to be honest. I mean, I watch I listened to the All Ireland and Costa Coffee, for God's sakes, although I did have the wits or the cop on to go down to the mall for the last 10 minutes or so. But they had an interesting guest on there, Mark Giangreco, who was the sports guy on ABC7 for years and years and years in Chicago. And you don't even need to be a fan of Mark Giangreco to appreciate the podcast. He was on there for the best part of an hour and a half. He got fired. He got fired from ABC 5 years ago or so for calling his co-anchor a bit ditzy or something like that. And she took offense. And Mark Giangreco is a character, as I say, bringing the sports news to sports lovers, and ABC viewers for years and years and years in Chicago. But he was on the podcast, and it was hilarious. It was so funny. He was so candid and just, so entertaining. And I really enjoyed that podcast. Waddle and Sylvie, Mark Jean Greco, the guest, and I was laughing out loud on my walk the other day, which is always a good thing. There you go. As I say, globalirishradio.com, the Irish diaspora station. We bring you Irish radio programs from Ireland and all around the world. Stay tuned for Oliver after this broadcast. Now, the Fleadh Cheoil, as we've been telling you about, it is in full swing in Belfast. The first Fleadh Cheoil, Nahiran, to ever take place in Belfast, in fact. And it's seen a 95% footfall increase in the city. Much like Mayo seen a thousands of percentage increase in footfall last week. This is a bonanza for Belfast because people travel from far and wide. As said before, they're expecting about 800,000 visitors to the city of Belfast, and there are events going on all over the city. There's workshops, there's sessions in pubs, there's bigger performances of the who's who of trad musicians and all the rest of it, and it's wonderful to see that it's being so well attended. It's a 95% rise in the crowds that you'd normally see in Belfast this week because of the Fleadh. So it does generate economic activity. The celebration of Irish music and culture officially opened on Sunday in the Belfast, and what else are they saying here? Yesterday, crowds continued to pour in to the city, including visitors from around the world. Events on the Gig Rig, that's what they call the main stage. Great name, Gig Rig, and City Hall included Irish dancing and musical acts. So it's a celebration of music, but also heritage and culture. We talk about getting your minimum dose of Irishness here on the Daily Crack Monday, Wednesdays and Fridays, but this is a celebration of Irishness. It's just like pageantry, and it's a wonderful experience. So glad to see that it's going well, and they are getting the numbers. And again, small business operators and pubs and restaurants and mom and pop outfits benefit tremendously from events like that, and that's what it's all about, really, isn't it? So that's the Fleadh. It's going well. Only the second time in its history that it's been hosted in Northern Ireland. The other one was in Derry back in 2013. But this year in Belfast, it's going down real well, and the crowds, lots of people. That's what you need. Lots of people and lots of spending and lots of good times as well. And it's lovely to see good news coming out of Belfast and that part of the world. We'll have to take a little bit of music and something trad for the day that's in it with, the Fleadh going on and the rest of it. So here is one of, I would think, if you ask me, one of Ireland's one of the greatest traditional musicians in Ireland. And she's joined on this song by Lisa Canny, and this one's called Let Him Go, Let Him Tarry. Take a listen. We'll be back with more Crack.
His friends have a good kind wish for me. Well, others of his friends, they would hang me from a tree. But soon I let them see my love, and soon I let them know that I can find a sweetheart anywhere I go. Let him go, let him tarry, let him sink or let him swim. He doesn't care for me, and I don't care for him. He can go and find another. I hope she'll bring him joy, for I'm going to marry. old mother now and set her mind at ease. Well, she's been old woman, she's very hard to please. It's like me, I'm talking is all she's ever done. Since I was a courting her great big ugly son. Let him go, let him carry, let him sink or let him swim. He doesn't care for me, I don't care for him. He can go running after, and I hope she'll bring him joy. For I'm going to marry a far nicer boy.
You're listening to Sean G on Global Irish Radio.
Hello, all you Global Irish Radio listeners out there, wherever you may be. It's myself, Finbar, here in beautiful northern Colorado, inviting you along to the Reigal Teigal Celtic Folk Show, streaming here live every Monday and Friday evening at 10 p.m. Irish time, where you're guaranteed to hear some rare old recordings from the old country and beyond. And it's all here on globalirishradio.com, the home of the Reigal Teigal. Listen to the Reigal Teigal on Global Irish Radio.
Yes, friends, another exciting edition of the Reigal Teigal coming your way this Friday here on Global Irish Radio. Check it out, all rare recordings that you wouldn't find anywhere else. And that's courtesy of Finbar out there in beautiful northern Colorado. Coming up before the end of the programme today, our new segment, Margaret Picks. That's a story that Margaret picks out for us from the papers, the social media feeds, or wherever indeed she finds them, and we share it with you on the programme. So that's coming up towards the end of the programme today. We call it Margaret Picks. Now, before that, it was music from Lisa Hannigan and Eleanor Shanley, and a little bit of trad music, our nod to the Fleadh Cheoil taking place up there in Belfast. And Wednesdays is documentary night on RTE television. We often tell you what's the documentary, the feature documentary of the week, and tonight's one harkens harkens back to the to times in the north when they weren't quite as good as they are these days. Things are much better, the landscape up there, and the dividends that peace have brought, and the Good Friday Agreement, and people are celebrating Irish music, heritage and culture on the streets of Belfast. So far cry from former times when all of the news out there was kind of dark and dreary, and bomb attacks and explosions and murders and the rest of it. It's a breath of fresh air, isn't it? But the documentary tonight takes us back to a different time, and it's called The Disappearance of Captain Narek. And when you hear the subject matter, you're probably familiar with the story. This guy met an awful end. But anyway, on the night of May the 14th, 1977, a British soldier, Captain Robert Narek, walked into a crowded bar near the Irish border. He was undercover. He was dressed in a donkey jacket and jeans. You know what the farmers wear in this country, or they did back in the day? The donkey jackets. And that's what he was wearing. That was his disguise. And it's understood he was hoping for a breakthrough in the intelligence war against the IRA. And there was an intelligence war being waged back in those days. And, we now know in later years that various high figures of the IRA were actually informers and, living double lives and the rest of it. But anyway, this soldier, or this British Army guy, went into the pub hoping to gather some intelligence against the IRA, and he sang two rebel anthems which he may have thought would strengthen his credentials as a visiting Belfast Republican, but instead a group of local men attacked him and drove him across the border to a hastily arranged rendezvous with the IRA gunman, and of course that's where he met his end. He has since become known as one of the disappeared. His body is one of three remaining victims whose graves have not been discovered. This feature-length documentary, which originally aired on the BBC, explores his life and death and includes interviews with family, friends and ex-IRA man Martin McAllister. So, another interesting documentary. Again, it's not a happy place. A lot of these documentaries, one was about the mother and baby homes and survivors of that 2 weeks ago. I forget what last week's one was about, but this one again, they're not happy places, but they definitely give you a dose of reality and that kind of stuff, and history, and not always pleasant, but good documentaries. And that one's on RTE tonight and available, I suspect, afterwards on the RTE player. Now, I mentioned that the Fleadh's in full swing this week. There's another event kicking off in Dublin. It's another annual event, and it's always well attended. Over 120,000 people, my friends, are expected to attend the 2026 Dublin Horse Show. that gets underway at the RDS today. This is always a well-attended event. Lots of people into the horses, love this stuff. But this year's event will see the newly built Leia Arena, a grandstand with a capacity of about just under 7,000 capacity. It'll be used for the very first time. So they'll be showing off this new arena. It's particularly a proud time, I suppose, for them. And let's tell you about the show itself. Most Irish people will be familiar with it. We've grown up with watching the horses doing the Eddie Macken and the various horse riders over the years, when it will be televised on telly. I don't know if it's televised anymore, maybe it is, but the show features 160 classes and competitions across show jumping. There's performances, breeding. Well, there's all kinds of things. They even have a kind of an auction where people come to buy foals, horses that are promising for to train into the world of racing and all of the rest of it. The Ranter would love this stuff. I'm surprised he's not coming home for the horse show, but anyway, he comes home for other big race meetings. But anyway, as I say, it's an equestrian event. I have to get that word out. And there's lots of money up for grabs as well. 1 million is the top prize there. And over the 5 days, there'll be an exhibition in the main hall of the RDS to celebrate the centenary of the Nations Cup, and the winners of which were awarded the Acha Gan Trophy. So there you go, it's all happening. I think they have a ladies' day there as well, do they? Just like they do at Galway and a lot of the race meetings. But anyway, they're excited and they are delighted to welcome you to the horse show at that new arena. General admission, $30 there to get into that. But it's if you love the old horses and the show jumping and checking out the women fancy dressed with their hats and all the rest of it, and the horses, of course. Dublin Horse Show kicking off today. So there you go. Studio at GIR.ie. Reach out to us anytime if you want to hear a piece of music, if you want to say hello, anything like that. Check us out online and stay at thedailycrack.com. And there's a lovely picture in the paper last week of two pilots. Now you might think, two pilots, what's he talking about? What's lovely about that? Well, it's the first officer is Lara Danaher, and she's sharing the cockpit with Captain Sonia Bissett. So the first officer, Lara Danaher, and then Captain Sonia Bissett. Yes, friends, they are two ladies. And their dream came true last week. Why did their dream come true last week? Well, because they got to fly together. And why is that significant, you're saying? Well, two ladies, yeah. Well, no women driver, no female pilot jokes, although we do endorse them. But none of that, none. It's bad karma. And the next time you get on a plane, you'll be saying, why was it a joke? Because there's a good possibility that you'll be on planes with two women. Nothing wrong with them at all. Although Charlie Kirk used to say when he'd get onto a plane in the US and it was a black pilot that he'd be more nervous than he would if it was a white one. But anyway, that's different stuff altogether. This is a happy story, and the reason why it is so significant, and they're pictured in the Aer Lingus plane alongside their flight crew. It is significant because... Any ideas? Well, because Captain Sonia Bissett and Miss Danaher became the first mother and daughter pilot to fly a plane for Aer Lingus together. How's about that? Mother and daughter flying one of those big jumbo jets. Well, not a jumbo jet, but a big airline, EI 650 flight. Probably, it's the European, the short haul to Frankfurt. But it's a big plane, and it's a big step for both of those, and a milestone in the history of Aer Lingus. So there you go, two ladies, mother and daughter. You don't get to see that very often. And yes, the plane got there in one piece and back. So how's about that? But there you go, nice little story and a sign of the times that we live in. Now, another story that caught our eye is closer to home, and it's in Galway. And that's the story of it, and we'll probably be seeing more of these stories into the future. A church that's on the market, a 170-year-old Galway church on the market. They're looking for a saviour. Yes, right. A saviour wanted for its long-term future. Now, the deal is, let's see. Let's dive a little bit deeper into the story. A 170-year-old church in Galway has hit the market searching for expressions of interest and offers for the purchase of a 99-year lease. So they're not selling it, but they're offering a lease for 99 years, much like the Guinness Brewery has a lease for hundreds of years. Is it thousands of years? But anyway, sure, who would be around in 99 years to know that they didn't buy the place? So you never know, you might get away with it. But the Holy Trinity Church off the Clifton Roundstone Road is looking for offers in order to secure a sustainable long-term future for the historic building. So, as I say, they're taking offers for expressions of interest, no price list or anything like that. I suspect you'd get it for it's not about money. It's about providing a long-term plan for the property and ensuring its survival and all the rest of it. So they'll give you the 99-year lease for, I would say, not a whole lot of money, but you got to take care of the place and maybe you have to preserve it. I'm not sure of the details, but it's an interesting story. We don't always see churches for sale. Probably you may well do in other countries, but in this country it's a little bit more unusual to see a church, a fully, an actual church on the market. As I say, it's a 99-year lease. It's up for grabs, and that's all happening in Galway at the moment. So if that tickles your fancy, get in touch with the folks in Galway at that lovely, lovely church. Now, here's an interesting story, and this caught my eye. A 1,000-year-old Irish oak tree, which was brought down by one of those bad storms that we had recently. We've had a lot of them, let's face it, in recent times. A lot of trees came down. In fact, last year they estimated that Storm Owen brought down over 60 million trees across the nation. And a lot of those trees that still haven't been cleared away yet. That's how many of them there are. But this 1,000-year oak tree, it came down in a similar storm. Oops. Might have had a technical glitch there. We're going to check a few things. We'll be right back. We are back again. The lights blinked, so I thought we were knocked off the air, but turns out it looks like we're still on the air, so we shall carry on. Talk of those storms, that's what happens. It is a windy day out there, and these things happen from time to time. But anyway, we are looks like we're still on the air, so we will soldier on as the song goes. But anyway, this 1,000-year-old Irish oak tree, which was brought down by storm, has been crafted into 3 rare whiskey casks. Do you see where we're going with this one? The ancient tree fell during Storm Ellen, which was in December of 2023 on an estate in County Meath. And now, thanks to collaboration between a Drogheda-based distillery and a Kentucky bourbon barrel outfit in County Kildare, it has been given a new lease of life. So, can you imagine? It's the first time ever that this has happened, or at least in a long, long time, because these trees, they're fairly scarce. The oak, let's see. Most casks by the Irish whiskey industry are made from American oak, and are, usually they're used to mature bourbon as well and all that stuff. So this oak tree, this 1,000-year-old oak tree, very unusual, and it's going to make for very nice whiskey. So watch out for that when that happens. We have a quick break to take, and we'll be right back. Good deeds are great things, and a single good deed can grow into a forest of kindness. At treedeeds.com, you can dedicate a tree in someone's honour and make a lasting impact on the planet. Each tree is deeded and comes with a personalised certificate, perfect for birthdays, holidays, memorials, or just because. Celebrate life, give back to nature, and leave a legacy that grows. Visit treedeeds.com today. That's treedeeds.com. Rooted in Ireland, gifted worldwide.
Global Irish Radio is excited to partner with 950 WROL-AM, the Spirit of Boston, to bring you portions of the Irish Hit Parade, providing the soundtrack to your weekend. Join Paul Sullivan on Saturdays 3 to 7 p.m. Irish time and famous Seamus Mulligan on Sundays 7 to 10 p.m. for a feast of Irish music. Streaming live from Boston right here on globalirishradio.com.
That's right, friends. Streaming live from Boston to the world right here on Global Irish Radio. Check it out the weekends. We have portions of it, and it comes to you courtesy of our good friends out there, Irish 950 WROL-AM. Friends, we're live here on Global Irish Radio. Usually are around about this time, Monday, Wednesday and Friday. It is the summer schedule. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 3 to 4 o'clock hour, and then you can catch it anytime at thedailycrack.com. Now, yesterday, of course, and the papers today dominated by coverage of this Glenn Hansard's funeral. And it was certainly a celebration of life. And, there was lots of happiness, but it was also tinged with sadness as well. And the sadness is captured very nicely, or is nicely the word poignantly, I suppose, a photo of Glenn's widow being consoled outside the cathedral. That's the front page picture on the Independent and the Irish Daily Mail today. Money has been raised. Lots of people raise money for Glenn's favourite charity, the Simon Community, helping the homeless. We know that he used to busk on, lots of the time, but particularly on Christmas Eve when he would be on Grafton Street or wherever he'd be at Christmas raising money for the homeless. So he was a good guy, Glenn Hansard, and he was a nice guy and all the rest of it. And people celebrated his life. And there was people, it was a who's who really of the music world, wasn't it? Yeah, Imelda May was there, Victoria Mary Clark, who's Shane MacGowan's widow, Bono was there, Steve Coogan, Chris O'Dowd, Damien Dempsey, Hosier, Declan O'Rourke, Finbar Fury, Mundy. You know, there was a whole host of, people there celebrating, as I said, the life of Glenn Hansard. Musical performances. It was streamed live on RTE. It was a sad occasion as well, and his brother went up and gave the eulogy, and, you know, there was tears shed. But, you know, people remembered it was mostly a celebration of his life, I think. And mourners at the funeral, you know, heard from, they heard about his remarkable gifts and his remarkable generosity and all of that nice stuff. And he was laid to rest then after a private ceremony. But as I said, the papers dominated. A lot of coverage on that story in all our papers today. And as you know, he was an Oscar winner for that great song, Falling Slowly. And his co-writer and partner at the time, I forget her name now. They're in front of me somewhere, but anyway, she paid a lovely tribute to him as well. His wife, his widow, read a lovely poem from the altar, and it was so sad, but it was so nice. And he used to write songs to her, so she wrote a poem to him, and she shared that with people, the congregation yesterday. So there were happy moments and there were sad moments, and you know, tears were shed. It was a sad occasion. And you think about, it's amazing because I'm looking elsewhere in the paper today, and Ireland's first Oscar-winning actress, Brenda Fricker, who died last month, she'll be laid to rest tomorrow. Isn't that amazing? We don't have a whole lot of Oscar winners here in this country, and two of them in the space of a week being buried. Quite remarkable, isn't it? Let's hope they don't come in threes. Irish superstition often, calls or suggests that people go in threes. So we hope that's not the case. Or if it is, there'll be people running for the hills. Daniel Day-Lewis. I did not know George Bernard Shaw won an Oscar. He won it for Best Adapted Screenplay way back in 1939. Of course, Neil Jordan got it for Best Original Screenplay in 1993. There have been others as well for visual effects and that kind of stuff. Neil Jordan, Keith Branagh for Best Original Screenplay. And of course, more recently, Cillian Murphy in 2024 for Oppenheimer. So there's a good few on the list, all right. But it's just remarkable and amazing that two of them passed away, and they're being buried within days of each other. Amazing stuff. We have a couple of other notable obituaries in the news today as well for your friends. Brendan O'Brien, who was a reporter with RTE for many years, used to do, I think, was it Today Tonight? One of those shows anyway. And he'd be well known to Irish audiences for his journalism and his broadcast journalism and all the rest of it. And he used to go around, I remember chasing after Dublin crime figures and trying to interview them and stuff like that. So well known, and he passed away today. In later years, he was teaching, I think, journalism. And another notable obituary this Wednesday, a pioneering figure, former GAA president Liam O'Neill, is dead at the age of 70. Young age, 70. You wouldn't expect it, but there you go. A pioneering figure of Gaelic Games administration. Liam O'Neill, who served as the 37th president of the GAA, passed away at the age of 70. He was a Laois native, and he was elected unopposed to the role in 2011 for a term which ran from 2012 to 2015. And things that we associate with his reign as being head of the GAA: the Sky Sports entering the GAA TV market, and the black card introduced to Gaelic football, and the Hawkeye score detection system implemented in Croke Park. These are all part of his legacy and changes that he made while being president of the GAA. So there you go. That's pioneering figure Liam O'Neill, former president of the GAA, died at the age of 70. And it's with great sadness that we learned of the passing of Liam after his recent battle with illness. The GAA president, the current president, Jarlath Burns, said in a tribute. So there you go, friends. That's pretty much our lot for today. There is a rather bizarre story online and on the media and the news sites, which kind of sums up the housing crisis here in this country. We do have a housing crisis, and it's not a pretty situation, and there are no quick fixes, and the government has very lofty targets, and made some promises that we don't think they'll be able to keep in advance of the last election, and have very high numbers on which to deliver. As I say, very lofty targets in terms of units that they need to deliver before the next election. But the situation on the ground became it was an eye-opener, one homeowner's experience, because he found out that he leased out a house in Dublin. He rented out his childhood home after his parents passed away, and they thought, we'll put some people into the property, and they can, it's always good to have people in the property, and they can look after it, and they can, have the heat on and mind the house, and keep it in good order, if you will. But when he showed up, he found, he was a little bit shocked, to put it mildly. He showed up and he found that there was 34, yes, you heard it, 34 bunk beds squeezed into his 4-bedroom house. Yeah. Not surprisingly now, a fire safety notice has been served on the property, with a 2-week period for the tenants to leave the premises. Boy, did they do a job on this house. He was speaking on Liveline yesterday, and he was telling about, the situation. Basically, they wrecked the house, and it's the family home. And, he thought he was doing the right thing, renting it out, making a bit of money, and having the property being lived in so that it would be in better shape. Not so, because, as I say, the place absolutely, he said the place looked like a bomb hit it, as you can imagine. There were cigarettes stubbed out on the ground, an awful smell of smoke. There was damp mould, garden was overgrown. In the garden itself there were tents. So not only was there 34 bunk beds, there was 4 double beds as well, I think. And in the back garden there were tents, and they also seem to be filled with commercial equipment. And it seems like that some restaurant crowd or some hospitality operator bought the house and was kind of using it for maybe staff accommodation, that kind of thing, which is not unusual for restaurants and hotels to have a place for their workers, because a lot of them are immigrants and stuff like that. But anyway, the bins, it wasn't well kept, and they didn't do a good job of cleaning up after themselves. The bins were covered, filled to the top, 5 of them with trash, rubbish everywhere, every space that you could imagine covered in garbage and trash and all the rest of it. And the guy just truly shocking. And there you go. So buyer beware, renter beware if you're renting out property and stuff like that. But that's crazy. But they're saying a lot of these workers that were staying in the place were literally being exploited and on low wages and stuff like that, and they couldn't possibly afford the rents in Dublin. Dublin's got a serious shortage of accommodation and rental apartments and property in general, and so this is kind of what happens. So this is the face of our housing crisis. A house with 34 bunk beds, 4 double beds, tents out the back, and it is just a pit. And that kind of sums up the situation. And that homeowner found out firsthand and sharing the details with us and the nation on Liveline yesterday, and it's covered in, as I said, the papers and the news sites as well. So not a good story on which to end, but that, friends, is pretty much our lot for today. Thank you so much for Margaret's story of the day. Almost forgot it. The pick of the day, and we almost forgot it. Let's do it here real quick. We're almost out of time. Here's what she picked out for us today. A farmer has been applying sunscreen, a special type of sunscreen, on his apples to prevent them from cooking as Britain struggles with another heat wave. Clive Baxter is the guy's name, and he's worked on his family tree fruit farm for 40 years, following in his father's footsteps. The farm produces 2,000 tons of apples per year, but for the last 6 years, he's had to coat the apple. He's basically been putting soil on them and clay and stuff like that, because the apples are literally cooking on the trees. It is so hot, there's no real breeze, and so when it gets above 30-35 degrees, the juice in the apples start cooking, so you basically have a tree with apple tarts on it. And to circumvent, to overcome this, he's been applying sunscreen. We don't recommend that you apply it to the spuds or to the apples round here, but it's one way of counteracting the hot temperatures. Thank you, Margaret, for Margaret's pick of the day, which we had to rush through today because we almost forgot about it. That's a lot, friends. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. We'll be back.